Hello. So some of you have started wondering already, how do I change the colors of things? How do I change the size of fonts, the types of fonts, things like that? And that's what we call styling of your elements, okay? And that's where CSS comes in, okay? So we have HTML and CSS. So we'll talk a little bit about that in today's video, okay? Just to say very quickly, something that we need to get done is I need to verify everybody's usernames, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating a folder for each student on the John Cabot servers, and that that folder will be using your username. So I need to verify that with each of you. Usually it's pretty easy. Usually it's just the first letter of a person's first name and the last name. So Yesenia would be Y Acklim. Christopher Dillon would be C Dillon. Okay, so if that's the case, no problem. I won't have any difficulty. But in some cases, for example, here, I don't know if it's just going to be J Padilla or if it's J Varon or J Padilla Varon. I don't know. So if your username is something different than just the first letter and your surname, then I need to know that. Okay, so either write to me and tell me, or I can verify during lesson about that. Okay. Okay. Anyways, getting back to tags and everything. So we left off looking at more or less this type of thing where we had a very simple web page with some headings and some paragraphs, okay, much like the example in the textbook, page 23. Okay, and you get something that looks a little bit like this, pretty plain and simple headings, paragraphs, and the like, okay? And we said that when we have an element, we have an opening tag, content, and closing tag, okay? There are some elements that don't have a closing tag, and one of these is the image tag, okay? So when we use an image tag, we use the opening tag, and then we specify what image we want, okay? I'm not going to go too much into detail about that. If you want, you can Google it by yourself, but images we cover a little bit later on, so I'll just leave it at that the image tag is a little bit different in that it only has an opening tag, and inside the opening tag it has a bit of information, kind of like this one here. As you can see here, we have a paragraph tag, and inside this paragraph tag we have a little bit of information, and this is what we call an attribute. Okay, so when we start inserting images, we'll have the image tag, and inside the image tag there will be an attribute telling the browser what image to use. Okay, so for now we'll leave that alone. Right, images, just saying that it doesn't have a closing tag, it does use an attribute. Okay, we'll leave that alone for now, and we'll go right into talking about styling. Okay, so we're dealing with two programming languages right now. One programming language you've seen already, and that's HTML. What HTML does is it gives structure to your web page. Structure meaning it tells the browser what is what. Okay, it says what content is a heading, what content is a paragraph, what content is an image, and what content needs to be grouped together inside a box, etc., etc. Okay, so giving structure to your content. Okay. Now, using a separate language called CSS, we can style your content. Okay, so one gives structure to your content, and the other styles your content. So giving it color, changing the font, changing the size, that sort of thing. Okay, and looking at your textbook, it starts on page 29. You can see that if you want to style something, what you do is in the head. Okay, so this is not content, this is styling your content, so giving information to the browser. And we said when we give information to the browser, we do that inside the head. So very important, put your style element inside the head. Okay, so you put your style element in the head. This part right here is optional. Okay, if you don't want to put that, that was kind of like more required in the past, but right now, nowadays, if you just put style without that and just close your bracket there and then have your closing tag, that should be fine as well. Okay, so have your style element, and inside your style element is where we're going to specify all of your CSS. Okay, so what they've done is they've taken this Starbuzz coffee web page that you just saw, and they're going to add some style to it because you saw it was pretty boring. It was just black and white. Okay. And here on page 30, you can see some of the things that they've done. And how CSS works is you specify what is it, which element you want to style. Okay, and at the moment they want to style the body. Okay, everything inside the body is going to get this, and some of it is quite readable. So you can see background color is pretty self-explanatory. You just want to change the color of the background. Okay, margins, borders, paddings, font family. This is where they change the type of font. Okay, here we have a code specifying the color, and you don't have to completely understand that for now. More on that later as well. But anyways, we'll take a look at some of these things that they're doing to the body. Once that's in there, you can see what's happening. So you get kind of a nicer look. So it's not just black and white anymore. Here are the margins that they specified. Here's the background color they specified. They specified a sans serif font, okay, which you can see here. If you don't know what a sans serif font, we'll explain that later as well. Right, so you can see that it does change the look, right? Colors and looks and sizes of things. So that's what CSS can do. Okay. Here's a little bit of an exercise for you that explains what each of these actually does, so you can take a look in your textbook if you want to read up on that, if you're curious of an explanation of each of these things. Okay. Now, what we're going to do in class, we're going to experiment with some of this. If you want to, you can go ahead and start trying it. Okay, so go into your Komodo if you want and copy and paste that code from your textbook, or you can work on an existing web page that you've been working on already and kind of try some of those things. Okay. In the example in the textbook, they've been styling the entire body. What if I don't want to style the entire body, but I want to only style my paragraphs, or I only want to style my headings? Okay. Some people were wondering, how can I change the size of my heading 1? Right? How would I do that? Okay, so something to think about. So let me just go back to the code. I'm looking up here. So you can see, to style the body, what they did was they said, I want to style the body. They made parentheses. Inside the parentheses is everything they want to do with the body itself. And each of these is called a rule. Okay, and each rule is separated by a semicolon. See if you can do it with a heading. See if you can do it with paragraphs. Okay, so a bit of a hint. Select H1 or H2, open some curly parentheses, and start specifying your rules. You might want to try something like font-size, okay? And you'll probably be working with pixels, so like 16 pixel, 18 pixel. Give that a try, and we'll experiment a lot with that during lesson. Okay. Some further resources for you. So we haven't gone through a lot of tags yet, but if you want to kind of check out some other tags that are out there, kind of get an idea. You might not know exactly how to use them, but at least you can start looking at some. And some of them might be a bit more self-explanatory, some might be not, but you can take a look anyways. Regarding CSS, there's the resource there too. And keep in mind this resource, the W3 Schools. Okay, this is a very, very useful resource. I'll probably be referring to it a lot. So you can always go there and kind of check stuff out. There's lots of tutorials and stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool place if you're learning how to make web pages, websites. Okay, and do read the summary of the concepts on page 36 in your textbook. So if you just keep going down here on page 36, it kind of gives you a little bit of a summary here about all the concepts that we've covered so far. Okay, so go ahead and look at that. And I'll see you in class for some experimentation of all this stuff. Okay, see you then.